In wrestling, losing isn't just part of the game, it's part of storytelling. But some superstars have famously refused to do the one thing that keeps the business moving: lose. From backstage politics to personal pride, here are some of the notorious wrestlers who simply refuse to lose. In 2010, a new faction called the Nexus burst onto Raw, destroying everything in their path. John Cena on the roster, and the set itself. Fans expected a dominant run for the group, culminating in a SummerSlam showdown. But when it came down to Cena vs Nexus members, Wade Barrett and Justin Gabriel, Cena bounced back after being repeatedly beaten to pin both and become the sole survivor. According to Edge, Chris Jericho, and even John Cena himself, it was Cena who lobbied to go over the younger talent, claiming the storyline had run its course. The Nexus were never a viable threat again, and John Cena later admitted it was a mistake. In 2020, Bray Wyatt's Fiend was booked as an unstoppable monster, heading towards a WrestleMania clash with Roman Reigns. But at Crown Jewel, Goldberg refused to lose to Bray Wyatt, claiming it would harm his superhero image with the fans. This resulted in Wyatt's momentum being stalled, and one of WWE's most creative characters was wasted for a nostalgia act. Sometimes refusing to lose isn't about pride, it's about a star protecting their legacy, even at the expense of storytelling. Sasha Banks and Naomi shocked WWE in 2022 when they refused to wrestle a six-pack challenge match on Raw, despite being champions. Feeling disrespected as title holders, they walked into John Laurinaitis' office, dropped the belts on his desk, and walked out. It wasn't about losing the match, it was about WWE's indifference to the wrestlers' storylines. The incident highlighted ongoing frustration with booking in the women's tag division, and it made global headlines. In 2006, the momentum of Randy Orton had been derailed. By this point, Randy Orton had evolved into one of WWE's hottest heels, with a legend killer persona. Coming off a huge feud with The Undertaker, and even competing for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 22, a clash with Hulk Hogan at SummerSlam, even with the added wrinkle of involving Brooke Hogan, should have been the perfect opportunity to cement Randy Orton as the next big star. But Hulk Hogan refused to lose. With aging knees and limited mobility, many assumed he'd pass the torch with an RKO loss. Instead, thanks to his creative pull, Hogan walked out with yet another victory, while Randy Orton's rise took an unnecessary hit. In the end, Hogan got to flex, Brooke got her plug, and WWE lost the chance to build their future. In 2005, WWE booked a dream feud between Hulk Hogan and Shawn Michaels. On paper, it sounded incredible, but in reality, it was far from iconic. By then, Hulk Hogan was past his prime, while Shawn Michaels was still performing at an elite level. The original plan was Hogan would win at SummerSlam, then return the favour by losing to Shawn Michaels in a rematch. But Hogan refused to lose. Frustrated, Shawn Michaels turned the match into a parody, overselling every move Hulk Hogan hit in comical fashion. Watching it back today, it feels more like slapstick than a main event. What could have been a legendary feud ended up as little more than a punchline. Hulk Hogan has long been known for refusing to lose matches. We mentioned he refused to put over Randy Orton and Shawn Michaels, but he also refused to lose to Bret Hart. At WrestleMania 9, Bret Hart lost the WWE Championship to Yokozuna, only for Hulk Hogan to march down seconds later, challenge Yokozuna on the spot, and win the title in what many fans still consider as one of the worst pay-per-view endings ever. The plan was for Hogan to drop the belt to Bret Hart at SummerSlam 93, cementing Bret as the new face of the company. but Hogan refused, insisting he was still a bigger draw. By then, Bret Hart was clearly the rising star that WWE needed. Instead, Hogan dropped the title back to Yokozuna, ending one of the most poorly handled and politically driven championship storylines in WWE history. At SummerSlam 1992, British Bulldog achieved one of the most iconic moments in wrestling. He defeated Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship in front of a massive crowd in his home country of England. It was the ultimate feel-good win, and years later, WWE was hoping for history to repeat itself. But standing in the way was Shawn Michaels, who had a very bad reputation in the 90s. At this time, Shawn Michaels was deep into his backstage politics phase. He argued that the bigger long-term story would be him becoming the first ever WWF Grand Slam champion. That meant that British Bulldog would have to lose the European Championship in front of one of the hottest crowds of his career. Despite dedicating the match to his sister, who was battling cancer and sitting ringside that night, management sided with Shawn Michaels, and he walked away with yet another accolade he didn't really need, while the British Bulldog and the fans were left heartbroken. When Goldberg arrived in WWE in 2003, he was destroying everyone in his path. By SummerSlam, he was set to face off against Triple H inside the Elimination Chamber, along with 4 other top stars. Goldberg looked unstoppable, eliminating opponents left and right, and he even gave us an all-time moment when he speared Chris Jericho through one of the pods. When it came to Triple H, Goldberg smashed through his pod and dismantled him, with the crowd certain a new champion was about to be crowned. Instead, a perfectly timed sledgehammer shot cut Goldberg's momentum dead, ending his streak and handing Triple H yet another victory, despite barely competing in the match. The reason was, Triple H argued that losing while injured would cheapen Goldberg's big win, so he convinced management to delay the title switch until he was healthy. A month later, Goldberg did win the belt, but the magic was gone. The moment felt smaller, and once again, backstage politics had derailed a potential megastar's rise. By 2002, Stone Cold Steve Austin was growing increasingly frustrated with his position in the company. He felt his storylines had gone stale, and after a string of underwhelming feuds, management pitched him against the fast-rising Brock Lesnar, heading into King of the Ring. Austin was interested in working with a fresh opponent, but he hated the idea of giving away such a big money match for free on weekly television, especially without build-up. In his eyes, it would make the Texas Rattlesnake look weak. Instead of going through with it, Austin no-showed Raw on June 10th, causing WWE to scrap all of his ongoing storylines, including a rumored program with Eddie Guerrero. Behind the scenes, there were other issues too. Tension with the likes of Triple H, Scott Hall, and The Rock, as well as personal problems at home. Facing Lesnar on TV was simply the final straw that broke an already fragile relationship. After Austin refused to do the honors, WWE publicly buried Austin on air, severing ties with their biggest star. He wouldn't be seen on WWE programming for nearly a year. Eventually, fences were mended, and by early 2003, Stone Cold returned for one last chapter, his legendary trilogy-ending match with The Rock at WrestleMania 19.